Konnichiwa, my name is Logan Charles Luna, and this video is going to be a review for The Mandalorian. It's going to be a review for both seasons of The Mandalorian, 1 and 2, and got this drawing I'm going to be doing in the background. So, the first season of The Mandalorian starts off with Din Djarin, who is played by Pedro Pascal, the titular Mandalorian, which, as many people have brought up, it's kind of weird that this universe just so openly and frequently refer to him as Mando. Like, it's less an endearing nickname and more of a racial slur, I assume. I mean, because technically the sect of Mandalore he follows is like a religion. So they're kind of just saying whatever his religion or his race is out instead of his name. Because he does have a name and people do use it. However, not often, and they just refer to him as Mando. But interspace politics aside, he, like most Mandalorians, is a bounty hunter, and he gets a bounty one day in the first episode that's too high to pass up because it's offering him some Beskar. Now, Beskar is the be-all, end-all MacGuffin metal of the Star Wars universe. And Beskar is like really tough, and it can hold up to, I think, even strikes from a lightsaber. So it's very rare, very valuable. And Mando's whole mission is to reclaim the Beskar for his homeland. And Din Djarin is a foundling, so that means he was adopted into the Mandalorian lifestyle. And every now and then throughout the episodes of Season 1, we get bits and pieces of his traumatic backstory of just these droids messing up his home. And he does have like a deep, resentful hatred for droids. I mean, who wouldn't at this point in the universe? Even I feel like people in general tend to hate droids, because it's just the primal fear of humanity seeing that one day they might be replaced by something else. Because as evolution and history have taught people, there's always something bigger and scarier than you waiting out there. I mean, people used to be afraid of a lot of animals and predators and all that, but then we got tools and weapons and we could protect ourselves. But how do you protect yourself against the tool and the weapon? So it's just kind of stuff like that. Mando, of course. Why do I keep calling him? See, it's a thing. Like, now I'm just calling him Mando. So Din Djarin finds this little guy. And yes, the internet will just still keep referring to him as Baby Yoda. So Grogu is this little 50-year-old baby who does resemble Yoda a lot because they're the same race or related or something. And Din Djarin decides to keep the child and keep him safe. So he goes back on his deal that he made with the remnants of the Empire. He does still keep the Beskar though and get himself some shiny new armor. And shenanigans ensue. Din Djarin goes on a classic Western style journey to keep the child safe from a bunch of people, mainly the remnants of the Empire that are hunting him down to get the child back. And throughout this, the classic Western movie and TV show tropes follow through. And by that I mean shows like The Rifleman and Bonanza and so on and so forth, where Din Djarin wants something, but the only way to get it is if he helps someone, or he's passing by a town and they need outlaw or a vigilante to come save the day from a group of villains. You know, the classic good versus evil wayward hero story. And it does also take a lot of inspiration from Cub and Wolf. And if you don't know what Cub and Wolf is, it's a story of a samurai who finds a child and goes on a similar journey. And in fact, there was actually a Samurai Jack episode that was kind of a nod to Cub and Wolf, or Lone Wolf and Cub with some translations of it. But yeah, Jack finds a baby. He tries to get the baby back to the mom. And that's basically what The Mandalorian Season 1 is. He finds the baby, he tries to keep the baby safe. We get some more backstory on Din Djarin as a character. We get some information on the fall of the Empire. And then there's the final Season 1 finale clash where Moff Gideon, an Imperial high-ranking officer, has them in a no-win situation, held up in a cantina, where Mando is saved by the droid that he destroyed in the first episode. And in that season finale for the first season, you finally get to see Pedro Pascal's beautiful face as the droid gives him some medical aid and helps Din Djarin survive this ordeal. Once Din Djarin end caps Season 1 with a big clash as he takes on a TIE fighter with his jetpack, which was a really cool scene, by the way. We get a reveal at the end that Moff Gideon has the Darksaber. So many questions ensued, fan theories, speculation, and then 1 year later, we get Season 2. So at the end of Season 1, before the standoff in the cantina, Din Djarin goes to the Forge Master, and the Forge Master is kind of like the priestess, if you will, of the religious sect that Din Djarin belongs to. And she lets him know that little Grogu here is a Jedi, and he needs to return to his own kind so that, Mando, Din Djarin, I keep doing it, so that he can get back to the way. And yeah, it's very funny how this is the way is just a credo that the Mandalorian sect of, I forgot, but yeah, the ones that keep the foundlings, they tend to just always respond and win an argument with, this is the way. And from Season 1, Queel also had a very fun way to end an argument. I have spoken. And, those phrases have become memes and still often annoy people throughout the internet. But nonetheless, Din Djarin begins his quest to find a Jedi. And in that quest, the classic Western trope continues. He goes off on adventures. They're kind of one-off adventures. Then, once he delivers a frog woman to her husband on a planet, Din Djarin finds more Mandalorians, because the Mandalorians were going to help him find a Jedi. However, he doesn't find his kind of Mandalorians. He finds remnants of Death Watch. And for those of you who are avid, extended universe Star Wars followers, you know what Death Watch is. For people who literally only see the movies and The Mandalorian, Death Watch, a quick summary of it is they were another group of Mandalorians who were trying to take over the planet Mandalore. And they follow the rule of whoever has the dark saber is the one who rules over Mandalore. So they're trying to get the dark saber back from Moff Gideon. And in order to do that, they need weapons in order to have a great war and reclaim Mandalore and all that. So Mando helps them out. I keep doing it. Alright, Din Djarin. It's just, you know that thing where people just, if you live in a certain part of the world or like America in general, there's like a food or a drink that everyone has their own localization for. And once you just hear it enough, if you're there for a long enough time, you just start to do it too. Like people call soda like just pop in some places, mainly the South and stuff like that. But yeah, so Din Djarin finally gets some leads on a Jedi, Ahsoka Tano. They get to where Ahsoka is. Ahsoka's having this whole samurai showdown with a Imperial officer where she got some beef. But then Ahsoka reveals the name of little Grogu right here. And once he finds out that his name is Grogu, Din Djarin just kind of goes on a whole field trip of calling to him like he's a cat. Or, you know, as some people who have dogs, like when you call your dog by its name and it reacts to it for the first time, like that's just kind of the kick that Din Djarin is on. So Ahsoka refuses to teach Grogu because she still has major PTSD and issues with what happened with Anakin and presumably the stuff that went on with Ezra and the rest of the crew from Rebels. So she just doesn't want to train Grogu. But she does advise that Din Djarin find someone to train Grogu, as Grogu can be very dangerous. So now Din Djarin goes to a Seeing Stone. And this is where a inkling from the first season was, because he goes out to Tatooine to find a Mandalorian in the first episode of season 2. He does not find a Mandalorian. Instead, he finds a sheriff with Mandalorian armor. The Mandalorian armor, to be exact, because the first Mandalorian armor anyone ever saw in Star Wars was Boba Fett. And Boba Fett is just this legend and myth in the Star Wars world for the people who grew up watching the Life Day special and just having the action figure of Boba Fett. He was this guy with limitless potential who got jobbed out, to use a pro wrestling term, to a guy who was blind, who literally just got off a lucky shot. I'm not going to go on a rant, but Han Solo is the most Chad, dumb luck, white privilege character in all of Star Wars. Like the fact that he was blind and just randomly shooting at people and took out Boba Fett was so infuriating and frustrating. And this is why I feel, yeah, I agree with Harrison Ford. He should have just died in the second movie. Why did they have to bring him back? Well, they brought him back because of money. But yeah. So now Boba Fett finally makes his long-awaited return to the universe. And Boba Fett finally shows off why everybody was so excited about Boba Fett from long ago in the original trilogy when Empire Strikes Back came out. We finally get to see how just outrageous he is as a warrior. He is the prototypical Mandalorian, just kicking ass. And the speech he had when he and Din Djarin were arguing about the armor, where it just really brought everything full circle, because it also reminisces with how Luke was given his lightsaber and the little monologue he had at the end of Um, what's the third movie? Return of the Jedi. But yeah, so now, of course, Baby Yoda, little Grogu right here, gets kidnapped by the Dark Troopers or Death Troopers or whatever they're called. But yeah, these totally just roided out droids kidnap his baby. So now he's got to go get resources and get the gang together, and they do a big rescue for the season 2 finale. Now, it's really set up that Moff Gideon and Din Djarin are going to have a showdown eventually at some point. And that's exactly what happens. They have a showdown, and there was a whole Beskar spear in the Ahsoka episode, and that was Mando's payment for helping Ahsoka reclaim the township on the planet where she was at. So now, Mando, I keep doing it. So Din Djarin, maybe if he had a more interesting name, because so a lot of the Mandalorians, like Bo-Katan, Casca Reeves, Boba Fett, they all had cool names. But Din Djarin is just kind of like a disappointing name. And it is a Western reference. Like, again, The Mandalorian is just really going back to the roots that Star Wars, like, that's what enthralled people into the universe. Because what if all this cowboy samurai shit was out in space? And that really fascinated people, especially this like mythical galaxy and the immortal words that were forever inscribed in the scroll in the opening of every Star Wars thing ever a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And that's the whole point of it, is this is a story that happened a long time ago. This is a story that was never, this story kind of has no end, because you can always go back and you can go forward, and it will always be a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But now we have the conclusion to season 2 of The Mandalorian, where Din Djarin is now the official holder of the Darksaber, and Moff Gideon does his little evil scheme to try and get Bo-Katan and Din Djarin to fight each other. However, it doesn't work, because Din Djarin literally does not care. He just wants his little Grogu back. Then they get into some deep trouble, because before he took on Moff Gideon, Din Djarin took on a Dark Trooper, and it really messed him up. It was like watching the Brock Lesnar Randy Orton SummerSlam match again, where this robot was just slamming his head in, and it's like, stop, he's already dead. But Din Djarin persevered and won. However, now there's like 8 or 20 or something of them coming right at them into the control room. And all they can do is try and barricade themselves, very reminiscent of the ending from season 1, only instead of barely surviving and making it through, this time they are saved by the person Grogu was talking to while he was at the Seeing Stone. A mysterious X-Wing shows up, and Gina Carano's character makes a side remark like, one X-Wing, great, we're saved. But that was the cue for every Star Wars fan from the 1970s to now reacting in a way like Daddy finally came home with those pack of cigarettes, because now we got Luke Skywalker, because it gives you that cheeky little shot of an R2 unit, a blue R2 unit in the back of this X-Wing. And this was the moment that made grown men cry like little babies. This was the moment that made people say, Star Wars is back, it's finally back. This was the moment where Luke Skywalker showed up and showed you why he is Luke Skywalker. He just ran through these droids like it's a training exercise for him, honestly. Like, this was just a routine, I do this every day kind of thing. And Luke Skywalker, very reminiscent to the hallway scene of Rogue One, where Darth Vader had a similar effect once he just ran through the hallway of Princess Leia's ship. But now we get to see his son doing the same thing. And yes, it was a stunt double, but now we also get to see how just kind of mythical the Jedi are in this specific time period, because there's very few of them, and they're very ethereal things that people either chalk up to as myth or hail as this legendary warrior. So now they see this Jedi Master stand before them after he's wiped out all the Dark Troopers, who a trained mercenary, a absolute stone cold killer like Din Djarin had trouble dealing with. Like, these Dark Troopers really put him through his paces, and again, Luke just showed up as the hero, and it goes back to the scene from The Last Jedi where Luke responds in a very tongue-in-cheek way to Rey, what am I going to do? Just show up with my lightsaber and take on the Empire? That's exactly what he did here. He just showed up with his lightsaber and completely took down the Empire. And it's a very perfect and ideal form of fan service. Like, this is fan service done in a good way. This is fan service done exactly how fan service should be done. It shouldn't be this overabundance of tongue-in-cheek, did you see what we did there? Self-aggrandizing, sucking their own dick kind of thing. It should be a treat, a reward for fans. And that's exactly what this was. This was your childhood finally coming to life. Because everyone has to be honest, this is what was going on in your head when you saw Darth Vader fight Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because the real version of it is very boring and lackluster, because it's just Allen Guinness swinging a sword at a robot man. And it's a very strange and ridiculous thing. But now we finally have a badass Star Wars moment that can't be knocked down, other than the fact that the de-ageification of Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, and they definitely did something with his voice. They try to modulate it to make him sound younger, like he did in the original movies. But no, the thing that really took me off and a few other people off of it was he just had these dead, like, soulless eyes, and it was very disturbing. Like, when he's just standing there, like, it's fine, it's cool, he looks, all the legend he could be, but when he just starts talking and he has this plastic looking face with these dead eyes piercing through your soul, it's just terrifying. And why people say that de-ageification shouldn't be applied, at least not now, because there's still a lot of bugs to work out. So yeah, Season 2 of The Mandalorian ends with this sad moment, this moment that I've been drawing, or at least attempting to draw the whole time, while I haven't been rambling on and going off. Yep, once again, going off topic. But this scene where little Grogu finally says goodbye to the only father he's ever known, Din Djarin. And this was actually like a heartbreaking moment for me personally. And this was like way more, I was way more on the verge of tears on this moment than I was for the whole, hey, he's back, Luke, he's about to fuck shit up. No, like that was just fun. That was just like how fan service should be. Little frosting on the cake with the cherry on top. Not too sweet, but just sweet enough. No, this moment right here was very impactful for personal reasons, but also it was very impactful for just the narrative of this little kid is going to go with Luke Skywalker. And seeing as how the series turns that most people may not agree with, but Star Wars is still canon. The new trilogy is still canon. So, little Grogu here was probably at the school where Kylo Ren just completely murdered all of Luke's students. So if they go with that, that's a ballsy move. But if they go with that, then that means Kylo Ren is the worst villain in all of Star Wars. Like, more than the Emperor, more than Darth Vader. Kylo Ren killed little Grogu when he was like 15 or something. So that's very, that would definitely make people just hate the new trilogy even more. But yeah, this moment right here of Din Djarin having to give up something he came to love. Like, he and the kid, first it started off as a very kind of Tanjiro and Nezuko relationship of kind of more a master and a pet. And then it became just, all in all, a real paternal bond between this, heartless assassin, a mercenary, a bounty hunter, and this child who's gifted with a uncontrollable power that must be protected, although at the same time he must learn to control this power from a master. And so they were always going to part, and that's the sad thing about it. But at least they got to go their separate ways in a positive light. Like, it was a choice. And that little moment where the CGI monster, Luke Skywalker, says he's asking for your permission. And Din Djarin, he keeps trying to coax little Grogu to go on and that he'll see him again. And then they have this scene where Grogu, he caresses the helmet of Din Djarin, and Din Djarin takes it off to show his face to little Grogu, which is something he's most likely never done. And he's showing him that, he loves him, because he has only ever taken the helmet off for Grogu. In the season 1 finale, he took off the helmet so that the droid could give him medical assistance, because he didn't want to go out like this. He didn't want to be unsure of what happened to Grogu. Yes, he had faith in his friends, but he wanted to make sure. He wanted to make sure that this kid was okay. And he wanted to make sure that he could see Grogu get out. So he took off his helmet in season 1 in order to achieve that. Then in season 2, there was a moment where he and Mayfield were on a mission to get the codes for the ship, and he took his helmet off. He took his helmet off to save the mission, but more importantly, he took his helmet off for Grogu because he wanted to stop at nothing to make sure that he could get on this ship and save him. So this paternal bond that Din Djarin had with Grogu, it came full circle with a tearful goodbye, and it ended the show simply with Luke Skywalker carrying Grogu away, and he and R2 getting on the elevator, the door shutting, and Din Djarin, maybe unknowingly, seeing him for the last time. I don't know, they might have him come back in season 3, and like get Grogu, and I don't know, maybe he just sucks as a Jedi, so Luke is like, come take your baby back. But now we get to the end credits of season 2, the actual end of season 2, with them announcing that there will be the Book of Boba Fett. And I'm not sure if that's going to be its own show, or if that's going to be like what season 3's primary focus is. But yeah, a show about Boba Fett. Awesome. Especially a show about this Boba Fett, where we're kind of probably going to see all the stuff that led from him in the Rancor pit to now, and where he is in the show The Mandalorian. And that's the thing, I kind of hope that season 3 is just about Boba Fett, because there's kind of no need to bring back Din Djarin. I mean, yes, the stuff with the Darksaber and Bo-Katan still needs to be addressed, but I feel like that could be an episode in season 3 and then they move on from it. But yeah, I feel like Din Djarin's story kind of ended perfectly with season 2 and him and Grogu parting ways. He completed his mission, and now Din Djarin goes on just to live his life, hoping that Grogu can do the same. But, you know, Disney's gonna Disney, Star Wars gonna Star Wars, and they most likely will just bring Grogu back, because at the end of the day, it's kind of not really Star Wars to most people. At the end of the day, The Mandalorian, as my sister likes to say, is just the Baby Yoda show. And without Baby Yoda, without Grogu, is there going to be much interest in The Mandalorian going forward? I mean, definitely for the people who like the whole concept of Star Wars, because this show specifically was made to get people back into Star Wars. Because, again, the new trilogy is just kind of a debacle. And, like, I've said it, Kevin Smith has said it, so many people have said it. This is why when they announced the trilogy for the new Star Wars, people just said Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau. Why Dave Filoni? Why Jon Favreau? This is why. This show is why they should have been put in charge of Mandalorian. And this show is why they should have been put in charge of the new trilogy. Also, just to have anyone in charge of the new trilogy, you know, actually, because the new trilogy, again, I don't want to go on a rant about it, but it's not cohesive. It is 3 totally separate stories that kind of have a narrative theme and kind of have a through line, but it's a mess. They don't go together at all. The world feels so distant, and the Rise of Skywalker movie had the complete opposite of fan service that people wanted and enjoyed from this one, because that was less fan service and more fan fiction. And again, it's just such a narrative and structural mess. And that's why, in some alternate universe, Guillermo del Toro directed Superman Lives. In some alternate universe, we got a Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni Star Wars trilogy. But let's not think of what could have been. Let's enjoy of what was. So this will be the end of the video. If you want to see me finish this fan art, go to my social media or join the Patreon. But yeah, link in the bio, social media stuff in the bio, or description. And I really did enjoy the show. The actors were great. The story, the nostalgia, and the new things that were introduced, and retconning a few things from the original trilogy, because the original trilogy was also a mess. Like, Star Wars has never not been a mess until The Mandalorian, to be honest, as far as live action goes. Because as far as live action goes, Star Wars has always been a hodgepodge, we'll fix it in the last minute kind of thing. Because the first movie was just that. It was just one movie, a simple story of George Lucas putting Western and the samurai films of Kurosawa in space. Like, that's all it was. It was his fascination with space from the days of watching serials of Flash Gordon to doing studies in the film school. And yeah, we finally got back to that. The Cowboy Bebop outlaw star fascination adventure of the great beyond and the final frontier. So I feel like I've tried to end this video several times. Let's just end it here. Sayonara.